In a huge metropolis, people pass by each other in crowds, trying as successfully as possible to blend into the situation. Many people try to disappear into the crowd, but not her. Wherever the heroine is, on the street, in the office, in any public place, as soon as she appears, an emotional turmoil begins. These glances that this beautiful girl is given, the endless whispering of whatever emotion she encounters from people passing nearby, people turning around in her wake and exclaiming with admiration, can hardly restrain their emotions. They overwhelm them so much. Everyone around endlessly discusses the girl's figure, how ideal she is. Her slender legs, in shoes carefully chosen to match her outfit, leave no one indifferent. She walks. Her beautiful hair shimmers and develops in the wind. Respectful and understanding of the fans around her, she was floating down the street, enjoying the attention, when she suddenly heard an insistent voice. Without a doubt, this guy, with such graceful hands and an expensive watch, was talking to me. Of course, the heroine stopped and responded with the most enchanting timbre of her voice. It's a common thing. You are beautiful. You have a wonderful style. But you still have to interrupt the conversation with a refusal. Many guys quietly look her up and down, not embarrassed by their girlfriends, who, however, immediately understand why their conversation suddenly stopped abruptly. Today, there is a change of guy who is constantly embarrassed and very worried at the sight of the heroine. Everything is just right. Her smile and her charming voice. Here she always gets the biggest chocolate frappuccino and a lot of whipped cream. Yes, a lot of delicious, soft whipped cream, just a fairy tale. Whether you want it or not, work calls. The heroine is very glad that she has a great friend at work. If it weren't for her, it would be boring. Yes, indeed, more than 4,000 likes. A bunch of messages with different proposals. Good. How wonderful that the girl in the photo is her and not someone else. Arriving with a friend at their boss's favorite cafe, the girls realized that they would not be able to have fun. The boss's obsessiveness in such a state even upset her at some point. Well, she's finally home after a hard day. On her legs, it was as if someone had put heavy iron shackles on her. The eyelids become heavy and just close. From fatigue, the heroine instantly fell asleep. It's so nice to be beautiful. It's really cool. She takes very good care of herself and her face. Yesterday, she was so tired, but now she feels much better. Meet the main character, Monica, and she has two faces. As a teenager, our heroine adored this group, and this was evident from her image. Monica loved things in this style. She studied at a regular city school. Who could she disturb during recess, listening to her favorite band silently on headphones? Of course, these were the most popular girls in school, and they were clearly unhappy with something. She quickly went down to the school cafe to get some buns. There were still a few delicious buns left on the display case. The purchased buns flew up with all their might. The girl hit the floor with her knees very hard. She was in so much pain. Looking up through her glasses, she saw a hand extended towards her. Raising her head, the heroine saw a real handsome guy, and it was a guy from the school cafe. Her player fell, and the music started playing as it fell. Blushing, the girl embarrassedly muttered words of gratitude. The new acquaintance narrowed his eyes appraisingly and was pleased with her choice of rock bands. Let's see what our heroine is doing now. Come to think of it, he always greets her first. Inspired, the main character rushed to school. It's just incredible. She can't believe it. What is this? Who could throw away tickets to a concert of the most legendary band and besides tear them up? The enraged heroine rushed out of the school. This is simply unbearable. Tears burn her eyes. The hysteria is over, but the heaviness in her heart weighs heavily on the girl. She ran out and slammed the door so hard that everyone's ears began to ring. In the corridor, muffled sobs could be heard from behind the closed door. Inside, the girl was sobbing bitterly, burying herself in the pillow. Having calmed down and come to her senses, the heroine lay on the bed and nevertheless decided to write on the forum about what was bothering her. Then the girl saw something that made her even jump up. She was asked to look at a photograph of a beautiful lady covering one side of her face, and then at her, but vice versa. Now this puzzle is starting to come together, and something interesting awaits us. The sign on the front of the store looks promising. Jars, tubes, boxes, brushes, palettes with shadows. There is so much of everything here. Will these miracle jars really turn our heroine into a beauty? Terrible skin, round face. The girl peered incredulously into the mirror. She highlighted her eyes with eyeliner and then decided to move on. Nothing worked out, no matter how hard she tried. And although it seemed to her that even this and that were better than it was before this makeup, she could not live up to the beauty. Not expecting to see the girl in such an image, her brother dropped everything from his hands in surprise. Shocked by what he saw, he stood and could not utter a word. Expecting recognition from her brother, she tried to smile as sweetly as possible. Finally, he was able to tell her that he could not now forget what he had just seen. Looking at her face in the mirror, she thought that her brother often behaves inappropriately, especially now that, in her opinion, his face looks a little better. Walking along the corridor, she was faced with the fact that her classmates turned in bewilderment at the sight of her and whispered about something. Finally, she reached her class. Entering it, she again caught, as it seemed to her, interested glances from her peers. The girls laughed, and Monica shrank more and more into a ball. She sat on the back desk and could not raise her eyes from shame. Having finally lost faith in herself, she thought that people like her, even with makeup, look ugly. Finally, this terrible and so difficult day for her is over. Monica decisively took a photo of her face with makeup. Taking a deep breath, without breathing, I sent the photo to the forum and began to look at the phone screen in anticipation. Just a flurry of messages, Monica was truly confused. Sobbing, she recounted her disastrous day. The girl looked carefully in the mirror and really saw that her eyebrows looked like furry caterpillars. Monica didn't know what a top post was, but she was intrigued. A girl from the forum posted a photo before eyelid manipulation, and her eyelid, but using double eyelid glue, and it was just amazing. She also wrote about what lenses she uses. The heroine bent over her favorite red piggy bank. She prepared a utility knife to open the piggy bank, and a moment later, she was already on her way out. She walked into the store, whose window was so inviting, and I went into this one and looked at everything that was there. In an hour, she visited 4 cosmetic stores. It was not an easy task. In thought, Monica bent over the new means. And even though the cosmetics she bought were very few, the girl spent all the money. Having put on the headband, she decided to immediately deal with the furry caterpillars. Ruthlessly, our heroine got down to business. It was unusual for her to look at herself with almost no eyebrows. Once she was done with the eyebrows, she moved on to the eyelid glue. Pressing lightly, you need to hold it for a while. Monica doesn't give up and continues to glue the eyelid. This time she did much better, so she finally applies mascara to her eyelashes. Looking in the mirror, our heroine looks at herself in admiration. The girls from the forum did not deceive, and everything worked out for her. So Monica looked in the mirror and was stunned. Is it really this sweet girl? She still finds it difficult to believe what she saw. For the first time in her life, she takes pleasure in taking her photo. Our heroine was very emotional from the compliments she saw. The girl spent the entire winter holidays almost continuously studying various techniques for applying makeup. Suddenly, the holidays are over and the morning of the working day has arrived. Monica walked to the door of her new classroom. Opening the door to the classroom, it creaked quite loudly. Her classmates turned at the sound of the door creaking. And although yesterday she was completely confident in her irresistibility, now she was in a stupor. Thinking, she gradually came to the conclusion that this new school was located far from the old one, and most likely no one knew her here. She peered anxiously into the faces of her new classmates. They looked very friendly with each other. And then Monica heard someone exclaim in surprise. Not understanding what had happened, she looked in bewilderment at the guys who suddenly turned to look at her. Yes, it was on this day that it began. Admiration, whispers, appraising, and envious glances. So far, our heroine had no idea what kind of recognition awaited her ahead, and still could not believe what had just happened to her. Suddenly, someone touched her back. Monica tried her best to look indifferent and turned around. Her new classmates immediately came up to her, greeted her, and were the first to introduce themselves. It was a success. The guys from the class immediately began looking for her on social networks, trying to find out who she was, thinking that this beauty was most likely a famous person. Monica's brother's peers asked him to introduce them to her. The school day is over. Finally, the girl got home. Her brother Kevin can't understand that this beautiful girl is his sister Monica. Snatching his phone with lightning speed, he took a photo of the girl in her original form and immediately began to blackmail her. Well, she had to resort to a trick and promise Crispy Chicken to remove the terrible photo. This boy demanded 2 servings. Monica was so scared, she couldn't allow herself to be seen without makeup again. How good it was at home. Only here our heroine could be herself. Despite the recognition, Monica felt uncomfortable with the fact that she had to maintain the image of a pretty girl. For fear of losing her authority, she remained hungry, which is very unpleasant. One evening, when it was already dark outside, Monica walked to the door, getting ready to go to the bookstore when suddenly, her brother Kevin ran up to her and started begging for treats again. Our heroine simply loves the smell of books and magazines and bookshelves. In anticipation, she froze in front of the shelf with new products. From surprise, the girl jumped back as if scalded. A guy stood near the shelf with new products and looked at her with an imperturbable expression. At that moment, Monica thought that most likely this guy was some kind of celebrity. This is the story of Monica, a gray mouse and a beauty at the same time. She rubbed her hand where it had been touched, and this guy stood still imperturbably. Finally, he directed his gaze to Monica's hands, in which she held books. The guy said, "That I was the first to see this book." The girl is amazed that he snatched the book she had chosen and calmly went to the checkout. The stranger stands and pays for her book, still showing no emotion. Monica couldn't understand how you could act so vilely, even if you were a celebrity. She walked out of the store completely crushed by the situation that happened to her. This is a new acquaintance of our heroine, or rather the stranger who behaved so brazenly in the store. Meanwhile, it got completely dark. Monica came home. Kevin was lying on the couch with his phone. Of course he didn't forget about the delicious food. Handing him the ice cream, the girl came up with something. The little brother was eating his ice cream and lost his vigilance. Monica stunned Kevin by telling him that his girlfriend looked just like her without makeup. But her brother didn't think so. Morning has come. It's time to go to school. With disgust, she picked up her old backpack. She wore it at her former school. It's so ancient. No one wears it like that anymore. There's nothing left to do. You will have to go with the old one. Perhaps no one will notice. And so Monica came to school. Walking along the corridor with friends, they discussed attending a concert. Suddenly, a tall guy came out into the corridor. The girl looked with interest at the approaching student. And then the stranger came closer. It seemed to the girl that she had already seen him somewhere. Suddenly, she remembered that this was the impudent person who snatched the book from her in the store. Today was clearly not a good day. Monica is shocked. She cannot understand what this guy is doing at her school. Her new friends told her that this guy was new. His name was Brandon, and he had been transferred from another school, and that this handsome guy had everyone completely delighted. From the words of her whispering girlfriends, she realized that although this guy was handsome, he was very strange, and also a sociopath. Remembering yesterday's incident, our heroine thought that the rumors were definitely not lying. Then she thought that this handsome man might recognize her, and this horrified her. The girls continued to gossip without stopping that the guy was very arrogant, probably because of his appearance, and also very smart, since he was the best student in his old school. Teacher John passed by, who was older than the girls, but looked very young. Everyone at school adored him because she was always very friendly and kind. Smiling sincerely at the girls, he hurried them, worried that they would not be late for class. Our heroine also thought that Teacher John was very cool. After the end of the next lesson, the bell rang. A handsome sociopath walked along the corridor, looking indifferently in front of him. Monica was so immersed in her anxious thoughts that she didn't even hear her friend the first time. A classmate reminded her of a sale they were going to earlier. Our heroine asked if she uses water tint. Monica temptingly praised the shades of the water tint, and her friend wanted one for herself. Monica did not notice how the keychain came unfastened from her bag, but someone heard the sound of a fall. Someone's graceful hand picked up the fallen toy, and this someone calmly went about his business. Monica was walking with her friend, and the keychain, which was incomplete, jingled quietly as they walked. What kind of our heroine is, terrible or beautiful, we will see further. Her classmate thought that the tints they bought were very cheap and was upset that she didn't buy a couple in reserve. The main character invited her friend to try out a new gloss. The girl agreed with pleasure. She and Monica really liked the result. A classmate asked the main character to take a photo of her. Monica felt like a real professional. The girl recognized her favorite band and was pleased with the taste of the cafe owner. And again, our heroine was forced to tell a lie. Having taken plenty of photographs, Monica's friend clarified whether it was true that her second foreign language was Japanese, which was confirmed by our main character. The girl hesitantly tried to get away. The classmate did not lag behind, Funny making her cute little face and begging. This information interested our heroine. Having agreed on the visit, the girls went home. At school, our heroine made best friends with a girl with short, dark hair named Dora. In anticipation of meeting the handsome man, Monica began to daydream and tormented her pillow. She got so excited that she started jumping up and down on the bed. The girl's imagination imagined indescribable handsome men. A tall, dark-haired, courageous dream guy sat with her at the same desk, very close. The girl was so pleased to think about the upcoming meeting. It was just a fairy tale. A sharp shout from her sister brought Monica to her senses. In the morning, when the alarm clock rang, our heroine immediately jumped up, remembering today's meeting. A second later, she was already in the bathroom and washing herself, while splashes flew in all directions. Today, she decided to do the most natural makeup possible, using light brown lenses and eyelid glue. And for a deeper look, I decided to use brown shadows. After applying mascara, black eyeliner came in very handy as it made her eyes more expressive. Finally, I applied a glossy coral tint. The image was complete. Everything was perfect. Monica looked charming. All so radiant, she jumped onto the first bus she came across and, holding the handrail with one hand, wrote to Dora that she was a little late. Sweating, she ran into the cafe. Monica peered at one of the guys, trying to understand whether her friend was talking about him. Our heroine, shining with her beauty, approached the table where the guys were sitting and embarrassedly greeted them. Finally, she saw this handsome man, about whom she had been dreaming all last evening. Monica's eyes widened in amazement, and her mouth opened in shock. Having recovered a little, she sat down next to Dora and apologized to the guys for being late. Our heroine could not come to her senses and kept wondering whether Brandon recognized her. Well, he sat opposite and did not take his eyes off her for a second. Monica felt uneasy. She was shocked by the thought that this guy recognized her. These glances of his simply infuriated her. What will happen next? And how will the girl who has completely changed her image and turned from an ugly girl into a beauty come out of the situation? The four of them sat at a table and crammed Japanese. Monica tried to cram too, but this guy in front of her gave her no rest. She sits here, so arrogant, obviously hiding something and wants to tell everyone nasty things about her. Finally, Dora announced that the work was completed, and our heroine breathed a sigh of relief. Before us is Teacher John, passionately adored by all the girls from school. At home, not knowing whether Brandon recognized her or not, she drove herself into hysterics. This look of his resembled an iron hammer. Monica was terribly tired of being depressed, and she decided to return one of the books to the store. With a concentrated look, she chose a more interesting book. This book was placed too high. It is very difficult to reach. Brand himself stood in front of her. The guy, in an arrogant tone, asked her to move to take the book he needed. Monica, quietly spying on her acquaintance, nervously looked through the books. From the appearance of this imperturbable, handsome man, it was impossible to understand whether he recognized the girl. The guy did not react in any way to Monica standing next to him. The fact that Brandon showed no interest in her finally convinced our heroine that he did not recognize her. The girl exclaimed in disappointment, surprised at the choice of the handsome man. The guy turned around and gave her a withering, as it seemed to Monica, look. He quickly appeared near our heroine. Unexpectedly for the girl, he asked what she could advise for choosing. From this look of his, the heroine internally shrank into a ball. Brandon looked closely at the description of the thriller. It seemed to Monica that the guy was somehow skeptical about her choice. After he left, our heroine heard the door closing. Morning came, and with it a new school day. Monica could not understand why Brandon did not pay any attention to her, because they were studying Japanese together. He walked past our heroine as if she were invisible. The girl decided not to give up so easily, caught up with the guy, greeted him, and persistently asked how he was doing. At this point, it was too late to retreat, and Monica, feeling coldness from the guy, tried to remind him about studying the Japanese language together. Brandon didn't seem to remember her, even though it had only been a couple of days since the meeting. Monica's new acquaintance clearly did not understand why the girl needed his phone number. Before leaving, he warned in an arrogant tone that our heroine should not call him about trifles. Monica was quietly letting off steam in her favorite bookstore. Because of her mood, she wanted to choose a scarier book. Wow, this guy was standing in front of the girl again. In some unusual tone, perhaps softer, Brandon said that the book that the heroine recommended turned out to be good. Monica was very happy that the guy liked her choice and began offering him various other options to suit her taste. Since our heroine read a lot, she had something to offer. When Brandon made his choice, the girl said goodbye to him in a very friendly way. Monica turned around in surprise when she was called. It's incredible. The handsome guy stopped her and even thanked her for her advice. How is it that one and the same guy could be so different? It turns out that not only our heroine hid one of the sides of her essence and did not want to show what she thought was her worst side, and it is very interesting what will happen next. Monica sat at home and thought. One thought haunted her. A beautiful stranger, whoever she could be. Why is Brandon uncomfortable around me when I put on makeup and look great? This is so strange and cannot be true. She burst into her brother's room without knocking. She asked Kevin what he thought about girls like her. Monica explained that what she needed was an honest opinion from him. Embarrassed, she casually mentioned that perhaps someone likes her even in this form. Kevin's opinion was very plausible, although very rude. Who could like a girl with such a face? One day, Monica was riding on a bus and listening to music on headphones. Suddenly, the battery in the player was completely discharged and it turned off. And Monica very clearly heard the guys behind her back calling her ugly. And one day, he and his sister were walking around the city. Some guys accosted them, pushed Monica away, and wanted to invite their beautiful sister to go out with them. No matter how offended the girl was, she decided to be realistic and accept that Brandon would never want to become her boyfriend. On her next trip to the bookstore, a surprise awaited her. It took our heroine's breath away. The seller explained that the guy who looks like a celebrity left this package and asked to give it to the girl with acne and a tracksuit who comes here every day. Yes, there's no way around this, and self-discipline won't help. It's all true. Brandon described her and called her pimply. I wonder what Brandon brought her. And although the girl was very offended, she was directly touched by what a valuable book he gave her, and she even decided that the guy was still very nice. Monica again could not concentrate in class. She kept wondering why Brandon was so nice in the store, but here he acted very arrogant. On the way home, Dora shared with our heroine her opinion that Brandon only talks about school and nothing else. And this is strange. And although Monica agreed with her friend in person, Brandon's cute face in the store immediately popped into her head. A classmate told her that she had heard rumors that he was more outgoing at his old school. The girls decided not to give up hope that the arrogant guy would make friends with them soon. After breaking up with Dora, Monica began to wonder why Brandon used to be more sociable. She washed off her makeup with relief, and while she was wiping her face, a message suddenly came. She remembered the annual super sale. Monica struggled with herself. The girl had long dreamed of getting on her, but she had already washed off her makeup. She had so much to buy at the sale. It was decided. She immediately got dressed, grabbed her old, roomy backpack, and was very quickly ready to go out. And although almost half of the city was definitely here, she decided not to give up. It was very difficult to get through the crowd, how densely they stood. Great result. Now you can go home. Suddenly, a man's voice called her by name. In front of her, in person, stood Brandon. Monica was completely horrified. How could he have guessed that she was? Passions are running high. We can't wait to find out what will happen next. Monica fell into a stupor, not understanding what was happening. She turned to Brandon and said indignantly that he had confused her with someone else. The guy, hearing her words, said in surprise that she knew that she was Monica. The girl could not understand what she could come up with and how to get out of the situation. She might turn around and disappear in an unknown direction. No adequate ideas came to mind, but how could she get out of here? Monica made up her mind and screamed something about a maniac trying to kidnap her, thereby attracting the attention of people passing by. At this time, she regrouped and rushed out of there headlong. Brandon, in complete amazement, shouted after her something like, "Hey, where are you going? And what other cult?" But our heroine, no matter what, decided to hide in an unknown direction. Finally, she was home. The windows glowed welcomingly and calmingly in the night. Completely exhausted, the girl flopped onto the bed. Monica was in complete despair. If it were possible, she would have screamed at the top of her voice. Various thoughts and ideas came to her mind. Having calmed down, she thought that she would ask Brandon not to tell anyone about her. The next day, she came to school as early as she had ever come before. The girl looked terrible because she couldn't sleep. She thought there was no one at school yet, but Brandon was sitting near her class. Monica, on tiptoe, trying to walk silently, turned around and walked in the opposite direction. No such luck, of course this guy noticed her. She turned around and smiled the sweetest smile she could muster. But Brandon, interrupting her, said in a metallic voice that he thought Monica was playing him. He recalled his meeting with her yesterday. Our heroine tried to avoid the conversation and leave altogether, citing a sudden desire to visit the toilet. The guy raised his hand and began to bring it closer to the girl's face. He stood there, trying to get in at least a few words at that moment when Monica couldn't understand what she was imagining. She couldn't understand which keychain body he had just told her about. Brandon showed her some detail. Looking around, she saw that only the head of the keychain man was hanging on the backpack. Then our heroine realized that she had to ask the guy for forgiveness for her behavior today. Stunned, Brandon looked down at her. Monica said that no one at school had seen her without makeup and begged him not to tell anyone. Finally, the guy figured out what was what. Our heroine was very ashamed. She realized how low she looked from the outside. How she hoped that he would now show himself on the positive side and be favorable to her. This was not the reaction the girl was counting on. Now it was Monica's turn to look at him dumbfounded. She remembered that this guy had a terrible character. Seeing her indignation, he pretended to be indifferent and prepared to leave. But our heroine was really ready to do anything, even serve him, the grand master of the cult or whatever he said, as long as he didn't spill the beans. The guy, after listening to her, agreed with a grin. So Monica again found herself hostage to her image. I would like to quickly find out how the two images of our heroine, intertwined, will cope with the current situation. Oh, here's the main character. She is running on Brandon's special mission and is very outraged by this. It all happened because she took her old bag that day. The girl is very afraid of losing her authority among her school friends, and therefore is ready to carry out the orders of this scoundrel. I wonder what this could mean. As always, the next morning came. Monica decided to clean herself up. How nice it is to apply this cream with this magical brush. Looking at herself in the mirror, the girl was very pleased with how she looked. As soon as she approached her class, Brandon immediately caught up with her. Well, this guy will blackmail her again. The guy stood next to Monica and, smiling sarcastically, demanded to bring him apple juice. Instead of answering, he stared very meaningfully at our heroine. The girl rushed over with the juice, breathing heavily, but she immediately received the task of bringing a whole pile of textbooks to Brandon's desk. Monica tried her best to appear polite and calm, and, of course, agreed to carry the heavy load. She perfectly understood the insolent man's intentions. She wanted to break him, but she could do nothing. Our heroine listened carefully to the conversation of Brandon's classmates, arguing indignantly with the girls. Of course, only in her head, she touched someone. Monica said that she urgently needed to run to class, and the frisky doe rushed off. The girls were very hungry and decided to eat some delicious pork. Our heroine didn't want Brandon to notice her. It's lunchtime now, the girl thought to herself. If only he would have mercy. Forces her to go somewhere with him, and this during recess. Monica hastily came up with something about the teacher waiting for her. This door leads to the roof of the school. It's forbidden to go there. If they are seen, they will be punished. The girl was indignant. Brandon, looking at her with a steely gaze, ordered her to remain silent. The girl had never been here before. She liked this place. Brandon handed her a package. Monica took it with surprise and asked what was there. And in the package, there was a box with a very tasty lunch. The main character tried the food brought and really liked it. This guy kept looking at her. Brandon didn't react to Monica's request not to look at her. He sat and muttered something almost to himself. Having stopped hypnotizing her, the guy suddenly asked about her favorite book. Brandon said that next weekend they would go to the cinema to see the film based on this book. For some reason, the girl's heart was beating fast. She was indignant to herself, not understanding how it happened that next weekend she was going to the cinema with this impudent man. Our heroine said that people usually go to such films with friends. Brandon stated that he has no friends. Monica walked next to the guy and felt some awkwardness. He asked why she was wearing makeup today. The girl explained that if she had come without makeup, she would have looked terrible in contrast to such a handsome man as he. The young man tried to object to her, but then Monica saw the play area and happily offered to go there. She loved games and really wanted to have fun. The heroine, in shock, asks Brandon if it is true that he has never been here. A second later, she was already inviting him to the slot machines. It was a wonderful game, right up her alley. The guy stood, carefully holding the pistol with his graceful hands. Yes, it didn't work out with shooting games, and the girl suggested playing a regular game. She was defeated in this game. Brandon stuck to the machine and smiled from ear to ear like a little child. After losing, he looked upset, but at the same time so cute. The guy resisted, but Monica insisted on going into the photo booth. When they were arguing whether or not to take a photo, some girl noticed them. The stunning beauty came closer to them and called Brandon by name. Our heroine, looking in the mirror, discovered new friends on her face. Monica was very upset and sat and suffered about this. Our heroine peered sideways at the photo that they did take with Brandon that day. He may not be completely arrogant, but he's not going to change, she thought. Being in this mood, she really wanted to eat stress with treats. Kevin became ill and asked to buy him some citrus tea. The girl looked at her chocolates in anticipation. This time the sound was louder, and she realized that it was a kitten meowing. Indeed, a little kitten was sitting in the bushes and meowing loudly. Monica called the baby, and suddenly a male silhouette appeared in the darkness. For some reason, her scream also made the man scream like crazy. Having recovered from the shock, our heroine asked Brandon what he was doing here. The young man also heard the cat's cry and brought him the cat's joy. And at that moment, Monica saw him and screamed, and he too, out of surprise. Of course, he didn't tell all this, but said that he had been walking and was tired and lay down to rest. Of course, the girl didn't believe it. The heroine squatted down next to the little kitten. She felt very sorry for him. The guy standing next to him objected, saying that it was not a fact that the kitten was a stray. They sat on the bench and were silent. The lanterns glowed brightly in the darkness of the night. After Monica apologized, Brandon said it didn't matter. The girl again tearfully asked not to talk about how she looks without makeup. The heroine looked at the guy incredulously from under her glasses. Her brother called. He tearfully asked to bring him tea. The guy correctly noticed that Kevin called. Something flew towards the girl. She thanked him, embarrassed by his action. The brother looked at Monica in shock and loudly asked where she got this hoodie from, because it was branded and cost a lot of money. Kevin tried on the jacket and admiringly admired himself in the mirror. Dora stated that she saw Monica texting Brandon and asked her for his phone number. The girl who had dropped her tray tried to clean it up while sitting on the floor. The main character, as always, took this trouble personally and rushed to help. The girl straightened up and brushed her hair out of her face. Monica looked at this beauty in admiration. A friend tried to explain to our heroine that the girl had to clean up after herself and that it was she who pushed Monica, but she diligently cleaned up further. And although Dora told her about the reputation of the fatal beauty, the girl did not believe that she was so insidious. There was someone in the computer lab. It was that beautiful girl, and for some reason she was rummaging through Monica's blog. Monica happily rubbed her hands. The long-awaited order was with her. These strips were very easy to apply. You just had to apply eye oil. The result was a natural double eyelid. The difference is obvious and all without much effort. She saw that she had received a friend request. The friend request was from a stunning and curvy beauty. Our heroine thought that she had seen this beauty somewhere and decided that probably on TV. The next day in the morning, a conversation took place at school. Dora indignantly explained to Monica that this was the girl who pushed her yesterday, and her name was Camila. Now everything has become clear. Yes, this is exactly that beauty. Dora thought that the girl had an excellent figure, but in the photo she was wearing provocative clothes. Dora got carried away and decided the guys were eavesdropping when they said she was jealous. One of her classmates asked Dora if she wouldn't want to show off her figure if she had one like Camila's. Monica did her best to calm her friend down. Despite the beauty's too revealing clothes, the main character still looked at her with envy. The girl realized that she was truly jealous. Seeing her friend, Monica waved to him friendly. Brandon, standing in front of her in all his glory, asked why she wanted to meet with him. The guy looked into the bag and recognized his hoodie. Walking along the corridor, Monica suggested going to a bookstore and then to a convenience store, while the girl looked at them dumbfounded. Her hand trembled with indignation. Our heroes had been walking along the alley for 10 minutes and silently drinking coffee. The girl decided to break the silence and said that the lunchbox his mother prepared was very tasty. Monica choked on her coffee at her tactlessness. She was so ashamed. In a fit of apology, she spilled the drink on herself. Brandon walked her all the way home. He said goodbye and recommended not to worry about what happened. She looked in the mirror at her fat, and she really wanted a figure like Camila. Her sister Katie quietly entered the room and, like a bolt from the blue, asked how Monica was doing. The girl explained to the main character that she couldn't sleep because of her mother's snoring. Lounging on the bed, Katie asked, as if to herself, if she should move into Monica's room again. It's good that the sister changed her mind. The main character sighed with relief. The girl opened the message and read it with bewilderment. She was stunned and embarrassed by Camila's letter. Well, the fatal beauty jealously remembered Monica and Brandon, who went somewhere together. Morning came, and loud birdsong could be heard from the window. Our heroine wanted to lie down and not move. It was a call from her sister. Katie noticed that Monica's skin was shiny, as if she hadn't washed her face before coming. Apparently, it won't be possible to have a quick snack. The older sister explained that this is a good cafe, and there is always a line here. They stood in the open air in the full sun. Monica sighed with relief, and it was their turn. The cafe premises were very small. It is surprising why it is so popular. They decided on the order, and Katie called the waiter. These girls stood over the food and for some reason took pictures of it. Our heroine inquired in a whisper what these people were doing. Her sister suggested that they were probably taking photographs for their blog. The order arrived. It smelled delicious and looked very attractive. After trying only a little, Monica realized that it was very tasty. While devouring delicious food on both cheeks, our heroine noticed that two girls were whispering suspiciously to each other. One of them quietly put a black hair into the soup. A woman came out of the office building. One of the girls extended her hand with a plate and indignantly showed the vile hair in it. The owner had a scar on her face, and it seemed like there was something wrong with her eye. She tried to object because she didn't understand how this could happen. Still, the woman did not argue and offered a new portion. The blonde with grown roots demanded that the money for the food be returned to her. Otherwise, she would write about it on her blog, and it would be anti-advertising for this cafe. Katie, beside herself with rage, ran up to these liars, slammed the table, and started yelling at them. Monica tried to calm her sister down, but she continued to yell about how they both saw them leave and put the hair on the plate. She took out a hair and pointed out that the color did not match the hair color of the cafe owner. The deceivers realized that there was no chance for them, and when they left, they said that they would not come here again, especially because the owner had something wrong with her face. Katie yelled after them so they wouldn't change their minds. The cafe owner approached them and thanked them. Monica said sympathetically that the woman was probably confused by such impudence. The girls, with a sense of duty fulfilled, politely refused the encouragement and returned to eating. Coming out of the cafe, the girls discussed what had happened. Returning home to her crib, our heroine blissfully lounged, well-fed and satisfied. She remembered the nice woman who owned the cafe and wondered what could have happened to her face. Monica took the phone and tried to see who wrote to her. Seeing that the letter was from Camila, she immediately rushed to answer. Our heroine was overwhelmed with happiness. The girl admired the beauty who wrote to her so much that in a few minutes she put herself in order to match. The guy standing next to Camila whispered in admiration. Monica, seeing how calmly her friend stood, was delighted. The girl asked our heroine how tall she was. Camila was glad that Monica was only 1 centimeter taller than her and expressed confidence that they had the same weight. In the cafe, Monica's new friend was quietly examining her. She noticed that the foundation was applied unevenly. Our heroine probably has skin problems. Taking a closer look at her chest, she noted that her opponent had push-up and in reality had small breasts. Then she found out that Monica's butt was flat. Smiling sweetly, she asked what foundation our heroine uses, embarrassedly noting that she did not have time to apply makeup herself. Monica admiringly reminded Camila that she was so beautiful and stood on the street like a goddess. The sultry beauty invited our heroine to take a photo together. Monica was hypnotized by the beauty of her new friend. They sat until evening. When it got dark, they went home. While the main character was washing her face, She joyfully recalled how Camila complimented her. Entering her room, she heard the sound of a new message and saw that Dora had written to her. Monica was very complex, and she was only happy with the attention of such a beauty as Camila. The message was an invitation to go on a blind date with an acquaintance named Rick, but our heroine considered herself unworthy of a handsome guy. The girl curiously opened the guy's blog page. Monica liked the guy and was thinking about the proposal. Camila realized that her rival had fallen for her hook. Not tolerating rivals in her path, the girl dialed the number of the guy she suggested the main character meet and said that she liked him. Late in the evening, I received a message from this handsome guy. Monica was embarrassed by such a sudden communication. Her heart was fluttering. Rick, without wasting any time, offered to meet on the weekend, which puzzled the girl. She was happy and embarrassed at the same time. Suddenly, Monica remembered that she had nothing to wear and rushed to choose a suitable outfit to order. In the morning at school, the friends who learned about the date were amazed. They wanted more details about him, and Monica tried to persuade them to calm down. The girls went to the handsome guy's profile, found out that he was a student and was studying at the university, but they found it strange why his face was not visible in the photographs. The girls enviously wished their friend good luck on the date. The main character, after wearing a mask all night, was about to apply special makeup. Shape eyebrows with an eyebrow pencil to give a natural look. Mascara, eyeshadow without glitter. The girl did her best. She liked the way she looked. She popped into Kevin's room without knocking. Monica narrowed her eyes sarcastically at her brother. Looking around, she didn't see anyone and decided to fix her makeup. Looking in the mirror, she saw that she had applied her makeup very tightly and was very upset. When she saw Rick, she was dumbfounded because he actually turned out to be handsome. The young man suggested going to the restaurant, but Monica couldn't even look at him out of embarrassment. Looking at her, he asked what she wanted to order. The girl thought that the guy was not only handsome, but also very gallant. When Rick placed the order, he was so cute that Monica was afraid that she didn't deserve to be the girlfriend of such a handsome man. Looking straight into her eyes, he noticed that she had beautiful big eyes. The girl thanked her, but thought to herself that it was just makeup. Our heroine loved to eat. When she ate, she did not notice how she looked. The young man with a smile invited her to try pizza. He carefully moved the cutlery towards her. How sweet this guy was when he answered the girl's question what his blood type was. Monica, smiling from ear to ear, very embarrassed, for some reason said that she would never have thought of it. When asked by Rick, who was standing nearby, what she wanted to order, our heroine replied that it would be chocolate with ice. After the guy ordered, Monica offered to pay for the drinks. The handsome man, smiling sweetly, agreed to this. The young man gallantly escorted her not only to the metro, but even went down to her station. Smiling his unique smile, he waved goodbye. Monica's heart was beating very hard. She thought that the guy turned out to be even better in person than she thought. When the girl saw the invitation to go to the cinema, she almost screamed with joy. On the date, she even wore colored contact lenses, which were purchased for special occasions. Before leaving, she couldn't resist taking a couple of photos. At school, Monica looked so upset that even her friend noticed it. In fact, the guy simply didn't see the message from our heroine because he had a lot of messages, all from girls. At night, there was an incendiary party in one of the nightclubs. There were several guys in it, among whom was a new acquaintance of the main character, and he bragged to his friends about his exploits with the girls. Flushed with alcohol, he declared that he could deceive any beauty, and showing a photograph of Monica, he asked his opinion about her. The club was very noisy. The guys could barely be heard. They were peering at the girl's photo, trying to figure out how old she was. Rick confirmed that this is a high school girl, and he is going to start a relationship with her for a week. While the girl is so naive, he especially likes the fact that she pays for herself. A girl with short hair and a striking figure walked past. He jumped up to meet the beauty, hoping to have a great night. Rick came as close as possible to the brunette, and having met, inquired about her age. Our heroine was perplexed why the guy with whom she went on a date did not answer her while constantly visiting his blog. After 7 o'clock in the morning, a message arrived. Rick finally answered her. He wrote that he was very busy. Monica immediately stopped being upset, thinking that he had a good reason. The handsome man answered instantly, which made our heroine delighted. Even after an hour, he did not answer her. At school, she called out to Camila as she passed by. Unaware of the insidiousness of her new friend, Monica shared with her her worries that the guy did not read her messages, although he was online. Camila said that the handsome student is always busy studying, and there is no need to worry about it. Hiding her hatred for the main character, Camila ruffled her hair, pretending to be sincere friendship and care. Monica was shaking all over, deciding whether to send her a second message to Rick about the meeting or not. Finally, he answered, and immediately made an appointment for Friday evening. She decided to take a closer look at the girls with whom the handsome man was texting and choose an image in which she would go on a second date. When her friends saw her, they burst out laughing. Today, the main character embodied elegance itself. Laughing hysterically, the girls asked Monica to let her hair down. The girl listened anxiously to the beeps of the phone. In some room, a bell rang, and the stranger turned towards its sound. Sitting up in bed, she told Rick that his phone was ringing. The handsome man hugged the girl and told her not to worry, because the call was from his sister. Elegant but crushed, Monica walked down the street. She was very sad. She believed that a guy like Rick would never be with her. The girl, having cried half the night, looked terrible, but came anyway. The guy was irresistible. He simply beamed. Then he knelt down and tied a lace for Monica to prevent her from tripping. The girl walked nearby, peering into the handsome man's face, and couldn't understand what he was thinking about. Turning his beautiful face, Rick called out to the heroine. With a languid sigh, he offered to become his girlfriend. The proposal shocked Monica. She did not expect such a turn. Now she has a boyfriend. It's just incredible. The guys met again in a cafe, and Dora asked the heroine in front of everyone if it was true that she was dating this guy. The friend held the photo of the couple up to Brandon's face. Handsome guys stood next to each other. Dora admired the photograph and chatted incessantly about how she too wanted to find love. A guy walked past him who looked like a friend of the main character. Brandon turned around and saw that he was very tenderly hugging the girl standing next to him. There was no doubt left. It was Rick the girls were talking about. This guy and the girl reached the hotel. Suddenly, someone tapped Rick on the shoulder. When the ladies' man turned, he saw Brandon's steely gaze. Camila indignantly told Rick on the phone that she asked him so that no one would guess that he was so loving. In response, she heard that he himself did not expect to be tracked down and hung up the phone in irritation. The girl was furiously tearing and throwing. Everything did not go according to her plan. Out of anger, she even threw her phone. Lying on the bed, the main character tried to formulate what had accumulated in her soul. After she read all the answers, it began to dawn on her that Rick was avoiding her and not responding because he was not interested in her. Monica couldn't understand why he didn't just tell her, but stopped answering altogether. The girl was completely unstuck. She lay there sobbing into her pillow. Seeing her swollen face in the mirror, she applied a cold spoon to her eyelids to relieve the swelling. The main character was delighted to see her new friend. Putting on a straight face and smiling sweetly, Monica said that she could not date Rick due to the fact that she and he had different schedules. Camila, barely restraining herself from anger, carefully wished that our heroine would not worry. She persistently hugged Monica and suggested they go somewhere together on Sunday. The girl was very pleased and said it was a great idea. In class, Monica, responding to Dora's sympathy, said that everything was fine and even good for her, which meant she would devote more time to her studies. Saturday morning came. The girl lying on the bed did not think about anything. Having written to Dora that she would not come to the group today, the heroine felt even more devastated. The girl's mother burst into the room and was indignant that she was still in bed and wasn't going to study Japanese. Because she got bad grades in her exams, her mother gave her the hardest punishment. Our heroine was offended because there were never any complaints against her brother, and only she always got it. Although Kevin's grades were even worse. Hearing Monica's excuses, her mother became even more angry and accused the girl of being a slacker. The door slammed in the woman's face. The heroine came to the playground and, sitting on the swing, sadly thought about her plight. She considered herself a failure and thought that she could not achieve anything in life. And anyway, she thought, what's the point of college? After sitting on the set, she wandered off to her favorite comic book store. Yes, a new comic book is what she needs now. Suddenly, near the heroine's ear, a male voice said that she seemed to be sick. In surprise, Monica jumped and screamed. He probably shows up here every day, the girl thought when she saw Brandon. The young man looked straight at her with his piercing gaze. He asked if she was really feeling well. The guys were sitting on the bench, and Brandon asked how she passed her exams. Monica was very ashamed of her bad grades. The girl sadly said that she was going to college, but with grades like hers, they probably wouldn't take her. The guy said that she needed to take her studies seriously. The main character reported that she had bad grades in all subjects. Brandon grabbed his head. Monica asked about classes only with her. The young man replied that everyone else had better grades. The girl was touched by the guy's concern. She stood up and said that it was time for her to go home because before leaving, she had quarreled with her mother, and she was probably worried. Brandon pretended to know nothing and asked how Monica and Rick were doing. The guy took her by surprise, and she said that they broke up, and it looks like she will never have a gorgeous boyfriend. The young man sarcastically said that now there is one less problem. Monica sadly waved her hand and went home. The heroine, walking into the distance, did not see Brandon standing and looking after her until she left. The next morning, the girl was still sleeping when suddenly a message arrived on her phone. Monica, barely opening her eyes, saw that it was Camila. Our heroine abruptly jumped out of bed, remembering that they were going for a walk today. At home, the main character's friend was preening in front of the mirror. Camila heard her parents screaming behind the wall. They were arguing over money. Today, the main character arrived without delay. Standing to the side was a girl who looked like Camila. When Monica saw her friend approaching her, her jaw dropped. The friend put on a black, tight-fitting top, applied bright lipstick, and looked, to put it mildly, very noticeable. Monica couldn't take her eyes off what she considered Camila's ideal figure. The main character, against the backdrop of the sultry beauty, shrank and began to feel complex. Monica's friend couldn't understand why she was standing there sighing sadly. Maybe something had happened to her clothes. At Camila's words, the girl perked up a little and was glad that she had applied her makeup so carefully. The girls turned around after they realized that someone was approaching them. A rather nice guy approached them and asked to give him a phone number. Camila flirted playfully, wondering whether or not to give her number to the guy. After his words, the guy handed his phone not to the curvy beauty, but to the main character, who looked at him with wide eyes. In complete shock, she asked the young man several times if he had made a mistake. The guy apologized after learning that the girl he liked was still a schoolgirl. Camila pretended to be very happy for Monica. However, this choice of a guy greatly hurt her pride. Looking sadly at her rival, she said that she had forgotten the money for the walk at home. It's immediately obvious that the main character liked the place. They sat down at a table waiting for their order. Monica, breaking the silence, asked Monica for lip gloss. The girl happily took the cosmetic bag from her rival. She opened her purse and casually rummaged through it and realized that the cosmetics in it were very cheap. Monica looked at her friend with delight. Her skin was perfectly smooth. There was not a single pore on it. Hiding her true emotions, Camila said that she didn't know how to put on makeup and asked the main character to teach her. They sat. The conversation did not go well. Monica, breaking the pause, asked if her friend was on a diet or was she naturally ideal. The girl replied that she complies, but even with an ideal figure, it is necessary to work out all the time. To maintain her figure, she does yoga and swimming. The main character is delighted that Camila has already decided on her choice of career, and she is lucky with her figure, and said that she herself does not yet know who she will study for. The beauty said that there is no need to rush to choose a profession. You need to think it over carefully and walked away for a while. Monica is amazed. She doesn't understand how Camila does 200 squats and doesn't treat herself to treats. A friend who came up from behind patted the main character on the shoulder, and she shuddered in surprise. After taking a selfie, Camila noticed her friends in the frame. Barely holding back her emotions, the girl wanted to end the meeting. She pretended not to hear her name being called. Camila greeted, trying to portray something like a smile. Seeing her friends' friends, Monica was of course amazed at how beautiful and stylish they were. An acquaintance of Camila noticed that she had the same pendant as hers, and that she had been waiting for hers for 2 months. The girl took the pendant and covered it with her hand. Feeling uncomfortable, Monica decided to go to the toilet for a while. She didn't know that Camila went to art school, but it's clear from her and her friends that they can afford it. Suddenly, she heard something amazing. Monica heard that Camila's friends came into the toilet and were talking about how she had a fake pendant and how cool it was that they let the arrogant girl know that they knew this. The main character couldn't understand why girls were talking bad things about her behind their friends' back. When Monica approached, it seemed to her that Camila was sitting somehow unnaturally. Turning her head, the girl told the main character that she urgently needed to go home, even though she wanted to take a longer walk. Monica was happy to meet such a gorgeous friend and said that it was okay. On the way home, the girl recalled the incident in the toilet and was disappointed by the behavior of the hypocritical girls who discussed Camila behind her back. Well, the broken friend of the main character returned home. She once went to art school with those girls. Her mother pounced on her and began to pull her hair, reproaching her for wandering around somewhere for a long time. Camila realized that her mother was drunk and reminded her that the doctor had forbidden her to drink. She cried, sitting behind the closed door, and her drunken mother continued to knock. The sobbing girl got through to Brandon, and when he answered the phone, she asked to meet with him. The main character's friend was sitting at a table, and without any emotion on his face, was reading something on his phone. Then Camila appeared in a very revealing outfit. The girl extended her hand and wanted to see who was constantly writing to Brandon. The guy looked at Camila with an icy gaze and reminded her that she didn't want to place an order. The sultry beauty was haunted by the question of who the messages were coming from. She looked and saw Brandon reading the message and smiling. Camila could not resist and asked who was writing to him, to which the young man asked why she called him. The girl looked discouraged at the guy who jumped up. When asked whether he would really leave just like that, no one answered the girl. At this time, Monica, lying on the bed, thought that Camila looked unwell after meeting with her friends. Seeing the photo together, the main character was happy and thought that she was worrying in vain. Then she remembered her friend's figure and decided to start doing exercises tomorrow. The main character barely walked along the corridor. Her legs trembled and hurt after the exercises. Entering the classroom, she saw Dora, who looked bad and was wailing that her legs and back hurt. The bell rang, signaling the start of the lesson. Lessons lasted until evening today. Monica could barely stand on her feet from fatigue. Then Brandon appeared out of nowhere. Saying that she was carrying something so heavy, the guy grabbed the girl's backpack, threw it over his shoulder, and carried it himself. Monica tried to object, but Brandon didn't listen to her. The main character could not understand why the young man was behaving so nicely. Brandon noticed that Monica was looking at photographs of singers. The guy displeasedly told her to start learning her homework. In the evening, the girl sat at the computer and looked at trends in celebrity makeup. Monica burst into her brother's room and, as always, without knocking. Kevin looked in bewilderment at his sister, who brushed his hair out of his face with a headband. The main character asked the guy not to move in exchange for a chicken. After some time, she managed to apply makeup on her brother's face. When the boy saw himself in the mirror, he really liked it. He looked like a singer. In the living room, Kevin began to pretend to be a boy band singer. Monica, looking at her work, thought that men's makeup was a fun thing. She did a good job the first time. The main character has to go back to school today. She didn't get enough sleep. The girl was very glad that at least today she did not have to put on makeup. It turns out Brandon hasn't arrived yet. For once, she wasn't late. Finally, the guy appeared, came up and said hello. The young man was surprised that Monica arrived early. The main character was amazed. She noticed something when she looked at Brandon. Usually he looked gorgeous, but today he was not so handsome. His hair lay haphazardly on his head. The girl sat and discreetly looked at Brandon. She thought that he could look like a star if he dressed brighter. After class, Monica called the guy to the store. They ordered soup. It was so hot. A bus pulled up to a stop near the store. The girl who came out of it could hardly walk. Her legs were tangled. She grumbled something about the director who forced her to drink with him so early. She didn't feel well, and she decided to buy mineral water. The stranger turned around and looked at Brandon sitting at the table. The main character came out of the store with cool drinks. The girl approached Brandon and, holding onto the table so as not to fall, said that her name was Gloria and she worked for a well-known agency and invited the guy to participate in screen tests. She took out a business card, and after asking if the guy knew about this agency, she began to feel sick. Monica, seeing this girl and realizing that it was her sister Katie, rushed towards her with a scream. Brandon looked at this oil painting in complete bewilderment. The sister took advantage of the package carefully offered by the main character. Monica, herself in shock from the situation, looked at her friend with shame. She picked up her sister, who could barely stand on her feet, and said goodbye to Brandon. The young man stood up and said goodbye to the girls. Along the way, Katie could not focus her gaze to understand who was dragging her. The older sister, in a drunken stupor, squeezed the main character's cheeks. Monica barely dragged Katie, who was in a deranged state. I wonder what they were talking about before her sister started throwing up. In a room almost completely immersed in darkness, someone was sitting. It was Brandon, and he was thinking about something. After carefully looking at the business card from Sister Monica, he threw it into a drawer that already contained similar ones. This morning, Katie woke up with a terrible headache. Monica looked at her with contempt. The girl realized that Katie didn't even remember that she had dragged her home. The older sister sat, rubbing her head and trying to remember what happened yesterday. It seemed like she met a handsome guy, but this is not certain. Monica was angry because she had to go buy a burger for her sister, and then she decided to buy one for herself. It's incredible that these guys got in front of her without waiting in line. The redneck guys turned in her direction. Monica, seeing their faces, became shy and decided to wait. She ordered a large Coke and walked away, afraid of dropping the tray. Then she slipped on the ice cream that the girl dropped. That's it. Everything just flew to the floor. Monica fell and hit her knees very hard on the floor. The impudent guys turned to the main character with indignation. Their clothes were damaged due to spilled cola, and they turned to her with the words, "Hey, lady." The girl who had been sobbing in pain was now sobbing with resentment at being called a lady. One of the guys sat down next to her and asked if she knew how much his t-shirt cost. Monica, who was on her knees, apologized and said she would pay for the dry cleaning. The guy, angrily staring at the girl, continued to swear at her. Then one of these guys advised his friend not to lie, since the t-shirt was a cheap fake, and ordered him to leave. That menacing guy with the words, "Lucky you," the monster finally left. One less thing to worry about, but why is the floor so slippery? The girl thought. When she stood up, a woman saw her torn knees and carefully gave her some plasters. At home, Monica lubricated her bruised knees. She again found herself in yet another mess and sighed sadly. The main character walked to the school cafeteria and limped from her sore knees. In the dining room, she saw 3 guys. Among them was the guy from yesterday from the cafe. Monica, recognizing the young man, pointed her finger at him and shouted that she recognized him. Then she remembered that she had put on makeup today. The girl jumped up to the plump guy and began to pretend that he was exactly what she needed. The main character was shocked that this guy was studying at the same school as her. When Brandon approached, Monica asked in surprise what he was doing here. In the dining room, the guy ordered red ginseng juice, which amazed the main character. The girl wanted to order sweet soda for herself. Remembering how she fell to the floor yesterday, along with the soda, Monica changed her mind and ordered apple juice. It finally happened. The guy noticed her wounded knees. The guy said that the patches needed to be replaced. Monica thanked Brandon for his concern. They moved on, and the main character apologized for yesterday's behavior of her sister, who had been drinking too much. The girl approached her class, and next to the next class, she saw yesterday's dark-haired brute. When Monica and Brandon passed by this guy, he suddenly told them that he saw that a lot had changed at school. Brandon turned and asked again that he didn't understand what he said. The main character is shocked. She realized that these two know each other. The brunette approached Brandon and, looking straight into his eyes, told him that he was showing off in front of the girl.